Hey, Laura. Hi, Aaron. Can you hear us?
Hi, yes. Michelle, I can hear you.
I can hear you.
Okay, great. Hey, Aaron, are you presenting tonight or are you just observing?
I am just observing, probably taking notes.
Okay.
But Todd's presenting tonight. Brian and I will be here listening, taking notes, but Todd will be presenting.
Okay, sounds great. Just wanted to double check. Thank you.
Get down.
Hey, Todd, just checking to make sure you can hear us and we can hear you.
I can hear you just fine.
Oh, okay, great.
I think Brian and Aaron may be joining us too as panelists. They're going to be helping.
Perfect. Okay, we just promoted them, so they'll
Wonderful.
be on.
Great, thank you.
Awesome. You're welcome. And then Nyameen, Tom Helm, Derek Williams, can you hear us? Oh, Esperanza? Espy got it.
Yes.
Yep, I can hear you.
Welcome, everyone. We'll get started here just in a few minutes.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Perfect. Thank you. Hey, Derek, we're trying to move you over as a panelist, but for some reason, let's allow Derek to talk and see what he sees on his end. Derek, can you unmute and tell me if you see anything on your end that's asking you if you want to join as a panelist?
Yes, right here. Hang on.
Okay.
I just clicked it. So
Perfect.
Am I in now? Yep.
No, you're still an attendee, but.
Okay, let me go back. I'm going to back out and come back in because I keep hitting that, but.
Oh, here he goes. I think you're coming over. Or maybe he left. There you are. Derek, looks like you're on the panel now? There you are.
Okay, I see me, but I don't see anybody else.
Okay, it might be your view. On the top right of your screen, you'll see the 9 squares and it says view.
Okay, side-by-side speaker, standard.
Side-by-side gallery is.
There's everybody.
Try the gallery, yeah.
Okay.
So it looks like we're just waiting for Keith to join us. We'll give Keith a few minutes, and if not, we can. Let me text him. Be right back. Okay, so I just called Keith and I can't reach him, so I suppose I can just call the meeting to order since it's an ad hoc and then just ask Derek if he'll run the meeting in Keith's absence. Does that work for everyone?
I'm sorry, who?
Derek, if I go ahead and ask you to run the meeting and Keith Freitas is not answering his phone and he's not here yet.
That's fine. I've been doing it for 7 years since the first night we formed the group. I'm happy to continue. Can everybody please, so let's go ahead and begin the meeting then and I call the meeting to order. If you'll grab your agenda and if we can go ahead and have a roll call, please.
Sure. Ms. Vielma?
Here.
Mr. Williams?
Here.
Mr. Freitas? Ms. Martinez? Ms. Gatil?
I'm here.
And Mr. Helm?
Here. So is that
Through the chair, we have a
four?
quorum.
Is that 4 or 5?
We have 5 members present, so we have a
Okay.
quorum.
Oh, okay, I think, all right, that's fine. And as long as we don't go over the Brown Act stuff. Okay, so we have roll call. We have a quorum to take our meeting. If you would all please take 2 minutes at most.
Derek, we can't hear you, as it might be your connection. Can you try again?
Okay, all right, let me go. Turn it off. Do you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, we can hear you.
take 2 minutes, please. Look at the minutes. Do we have any questions or comments on the minutes? No, all right, I deem the minutes approved. Let's move on. Public comments. This is the time when the district makes opportunity in this meeting for members of the public to make comments on matters that are not on the agenda. It's requested that no comments be made during this period on items that are on the agenda. The public may make comments on each agenda item during the meeting at that time when that item is called up. Attention is called to the fact that EJAG and this grants committee is prohibited by law from taking any action on any or discussion on matters that are not on the agenda. Chair comments. I just want to thank everybody for being here and for your sacrificing your time, because we already have a long meeting after this, and I appreciate you being here for the extra hour. Thank you so much. And we're going to go ahead and roll to item number 6, which is to discuss and approve the recommendations we'll look at first the recommendations and the program that we had last year. And you'll see that they've given us a working copy and they've done some red letter stuff in there. I would ask at this time if Todd would explain to us the changes that were made on this that are in red and who made the changes and why the district is recommending those changes.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Todd DeYoung, the district's Director of Grants and Incentives. Happy to see everybody this afternoon. I believe the strikeout underlying version that you're seeing there, or the track changes version, those are actually the changes that this committee made last year to the recommendation. So I think what you're seeing there is just a track changes version of the final version that went out last year. So no changes have been made by district staff. That's the version from last year at this time.
Okay, and as I recall, that was just basically some cleaning it up a little bit because of changes in programs. It didn't really substantially change the recommendation. It was just a little bit of housekeeping on some of the verbiage and because of some of the different laws and so forth. Is that a correct assessment?
That was my recollection. Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. So I will open this up now to discussion to discuss our program here. And I would suggest personally that we don't make changes just to make changes, but if there is something that we need to change, then obviously we address it. But the governing board has been very happy with these primary items now for 7 years or 8 years. And we've adjusted some of them. We brought in, for example, Nyman's very well versed on AB 617, and we've addressed and brought in the 617 item. I think that actually you made that suggestion last year, Nyman, that we got that in there and included that. So the changes as the programs have changed have been incorporated. Does anybody know of any programs that are that we have purview over that would need to be added to this? And maybe before I even go to the group, I should ask Todd that. Todd, on behalf of the district, are there any program changes, new programs that you see that we should include in this? Or should this stand as it is because some of the other programs are handled under different laws and rules and sources of funds?
You know, I think this is really up to this committee and the EJAG, the Greater
Right.
EJAG committee. You know, in terms of what's changed since last year, you know, the only major program that an initiative that we really added was our Alternatives to Agricultural Open Burning program, which was a significant program that we started late last year and is going strong. Just through the chair, I have a short presentation. We don't, you know, it's been hit or miss whether we actually go through this presentation each year. But seeing as how we have a few new members, I'd be happy to kind of walk you through, you know, it gives a little bit of background to why we're doing this and kind of what we've done in the past. So I'd be happy to run through that presentation before we jump right into the recommendations, but it's certainly up to the committee. But I'm fine either way.
I see, Nyman, you have your hand up. Should we hear his presentation and then go into questions?
No,
Okay.
actually, that was my recommendation. I'm not new. This is my first meeting, so I would benefit a lot from listening to the presentation first.
Todd DeYoung, the floor is yours.
All right, my pleasure. I do not have control of the PowerPoint myself, but if we could go ahead and go to the next slide, that would be wonderful. All right, so just by way of a very high level background, and you've probably all heard this in one format or another, but since we've been providing incentives at the district since 1992 when the district formed, and since that time we've had a very successful voluntary incentive program. We've reduced over 200,000 tons of emissions. The public-private investment, the combination of those funds, is over $4.3 billion to date to purchase, replace, or retrofit thousands of pieces of equipment. I'm not going to go through each one of these, but you can see on this slide just everything that we've done, and this is just really in the last 10 years. And so, and if you've got a hand raised, please just go ahead and stop me at any point if you've got a question as I'm going through this. But as you can see, just thousands and thousands of pieces of equipment in all kinds of different programs we've been able to replace and purchase. Next slide, please. And so this process that we're going through right now was really born out of AB 2522, the passage of AB 2522. And that was back in 2008, I believe. And what that legislation did is a couple of things. It provided the district with a source of local funds through DMV surcharges. It allowed us to collect an additional $12 per vehicle. It actually allowed up more than that, but our governing board decided on $12 per vehicle that comes directly to the district for our voluntary incentive programs. In that legislation, there was specific guidance that $10 million of that was directed to go to benefit EJ areas. And so at that time, we formed the Environmental Justice Advisory Group to provide that guidance to the district on where that $10 million should go. Now, through the years since 2008, we've well surpassed that $10 million in guidance. And so what we do each year is we still want to see what the recommendations of this group are and ensure that we're incorporating those recommendations for where funding should go into our spending plan that goes as part of our district budget. We do it at this time of the year because we're actually working on our 2022-23 budget as we speak, and we're formulating our spending plan. So the reason we're coming to you at this time is because this is the perfect time as we're formulating our spending plan to get the input of this committee on where those dollars should go. So some of the things that we consider are the percentage of the funding that must be expended to benefit these EJ areas within our existing grant programs. We've in several of our grant programs, we have specific carve outs for low income or disadvantaged communities. And just to take a step back, we define environmental justice committees, or excuse me, environmental justice areas at using the Cal Screen model that you're all familiar with, the disadvantaged communities and low income designation. So we're using those same definitions so they're consistent.
What is what's the percentile that you take, like 70 percentile, 80?
I believe it's 80, but I'd have to verify that. And I mean, it's a good question. But
what was the question again?
So Todd mentioned that they take into consideration Cal Screen, but Cal Screen has a ranking that goes from 0 to 100. So if you're in 100, you're like, the most disadvantaged community. But, I was asking, what is the determination, starting at what level is a community defined as a disadvantaged or environmental justice community?
Ooh, yeah, it's a good question. I know that's the background behind the screen. I don't have the answer to that right now.
It's consistent with, it's consistent with the designation for low income and disadvantaged communities and the GGRF funds, the greenhouse gas reduction funds at the state level. It's all consistent with those levels, and I can get the specific percentage, but sure, I don't have it off the top of my head. But it is it's consistent with those other state programs. All right, go ahead and move the slide forward, please. Okay, so this is just a summary of what was provided last year. You have the document, the one that Derek was referring to earlier. This is just kind of a summary of what those recommendations were from last year. And they change slightly from year to year, and things are added and taken out. But this is just kind of our starting point. Next slide, please. Okay. And so now I just want to kind of go over the spending plan that went as part of our current year's budget, our 21-22 budget. It includes about $519 million for our incentive programs. And it covers a wide variety of different programs. As we're building that spending plan and putting together our budget for the year for our incentive programs, we have to consider a wide variety of factors. Cost effectiveness is one of the main driving forces behind what we consider when we're putting together our spending plan and where we invest our dollars. And cost effectiveness, as everybody knows, is basically the amount of money it takes to reduce a ton of pollution. So dollars per ton reduced. So the cheaper you can buy a dollar, or cheaper you can buy a ton of reductions, the better. So that's one of the main considerations, is cost effectiveness. The inventory of available projects, you have to have the equipment out there to replace to get those reductions. The required expenditure timeframes. Every funding source that we have has a different timeline for expenditure. These are legislatively driven, generally speaking. And so we have to take into account how fast we're going to spend the money, or how long it's going to take to spend the money as we're putting funding into these different programs. Environmental justice is one of the big considerations. Upcoming regulatory deadlines. So once something is required to happen, we can no longer provide incentives. Our incentives have to come before there's a requirement to do something, or they have to go beyond what that requirement is. Otherwise, we're actually paying for compliance with that regulation, and that's something generally we can't do. Then health benefits is another big one. It goes along with cost effectiveness and reducing emissions, but we also think about reducing exposure. This has become increasingly important and increasingly highlighted in all of the AB 617 efforts. We're doing a lot of exposure reduction measures within the AB 617 communities, which, they may not be the best in terms of straight bang for your buck, but they're getting reductions within the neighborhoods and they're reducing exposure to some of these harmful pollutants that are just as important as, these general overall large scale emission reduction projects. So reducing exposure and reducing emissions where they're affecting people is very important to us. Promoting technology advancement. We always want to be pushing the envelope, looking for the next cleanest opportunity and really driving the market towards zero emissions where we can. And then getting the community involved. One of the things that we like to do is we want to make sure that we have a great mix of programs that are available for businesses to turn over their fleets, but we also want to make sure that the community can get involved and they can feel involved and they can feel like they've got a say and that they're doing something positive for their community. So those are things like the Clean Green Yard machines, the Tune In, Tune Up program, our Burn Cleaner program. All of those are community-driven programs and very specific and very community level. Next slide, please. So in our spending plan this year, I'm just going to quickly go through these couple of slides. I just want to highlight a few of the areas that match up and align with the EJAG recommendations that we incorporated into our spending plan. The agricultural equipment replacement program is one of the highlighted areas in your recommendations. Just about every year, it's been very consistent, and we do have a significant investment in agricultural equipment in the budget this year. Ag pump replacement is another one, and then you can see these are all the other programs where we have funding available through our spending plan. If you look down there, truck replacement program, again, that's another EJAG recommendation, and we've funded that significantly this year, as we do each year, and EJAG has been very involved in sort of moving those truck incentives forward where we can. Next slide, please. These are a lot of those community level programs that I was talking about. Burn Cleaner is one of the big EJAG recommendations just about every year. And you can see that we've put significant funding into that program once again for the fiscal year. Very popular program, very community driven, community level, and very well funded in the spending plan. The Drive Clean Repair program, that's our Tune In, Tune Up program, as you're all, I'm sure, aware. That's another EJAG recommendation, a wonderful community level program targeted at helping folks repair their vehicles and be able to pass smog. And so that's one of the EJAG recommendations that has been for the last several years, that's well funded. We actually just took an item to our board to add $4 million to this program for the remainder of the fiscal year because it's so popular. And so that's actually an $11 million program this fiscal year. The Drive Clean Replacement program is the companion to the repair program. Those cars that just shouldn't be repaired and they should just be off the road, we offer incentives to actually replace those vehicles with cleaner vehicles. Again, that was an EJAG recommendation. Our Remove program offers things like incentives for transit pass subsidies and a variety of programs and projects that reduce vehicle miles traveled, or VMT. And so that's always been a consideration for the EJAG. And then you can see our residential lawn and garden and other programs, our van pool voucher program, things like that. Next slide, please. There we go. And so the last couple of years, obviously, we've had a lot of targeted funding for the AB 617 programs. We currently have 4 communities within the San Joaquin Valley that have been designated as AB 617 communities. And we have allocated a significant amount of targeted funding for those communities. As you can see, ag equipment replacement, ag pump replacement. These are a lot of those exposure reduction measures I talked about earlier, like air filtration in schools, designed to reduce exposure to pollutants for school children. Our burn cleaner program, again, is very well represented within the AB 617 spending plan. We've got some innovative car sharing programs that we're getting off the ground in some of these communities, commercial lawn and garden, and then some CAP funds that we have available for district projects and future communities. So the Arvin Lamont area is going through their CERP development, their community emission reduction program development right now. And so we'll have funding available for that at the time. Next slide, please. These are some additional AB 617 spending plan categories. There's our tune in, tune up program, our drive clean replacement program. And there's just a variety of different types of programs and projects. The on-field alternatives to open burning is the program I talked about earlier. That's kind of one of our newer programs that really took off this last fiscal year. Next slide, please. And then again, because there was so much innovation in AB 617 and the communities provided such great ideas for new programs, there's just a lot of different areas where funding is being invested in these communities. And this is just kind of the next slide that shows all these school bus replacement and retrofit, urban greening, and vegetative barriers. I know Naimeen has been extremely involved in those programs and getting those off the ground, and we're working towards opening up those programs very soon. And we've got funding for truck replacement in these communities, and we're working on zero emission options and near zero emission options to replace diesel trucks that are operating in and around these communities. Next slide, if there is one. Oh yeah, right. Just the last little bit of our spending plan, and it's an important one. This focuses on advanced transportation and some of the non-mobile technology. Our Charge Up program provides funding for charging infrastructure for electric vehicles. Our Public Benefit Grants program provides opportunities for public agencies that don't necessarily have funding to make low emission and green options in their transportation fleets. So we can provide assistance so that they can make those decisions for their communities. The open field alternatives to open burning, and then our technology advancement program. The technology advancement program is there for any innovative ideas that come our way throughout the year, anything that looks like it would be, maybe a good opportunity for a small pilot, or something to sort of move some technology along. We have some funding available for that. So I think that might be the last slide, but let's check. Oh, that was it.
Yep, that's the last slide. That is the last one.
So with that, I'd be happy to take questions, or I'll turn it back to the committee and let you guys go.
We'll probably combine the two, Todd. Just one piece of housekeeping. So maybe it's not that way on the actual official form, but school buses didn't get a number assigned. So we actually only have 1 through 5. School buses didn't get a number. I would just suggest either you push all the numbers down, or just make school buses number 6. It doesn't make any difference. We don't have these in an order of importance. So we just want to get a number and make sure that everything gets numbered in there. And then before I turn it over to the rest, I just had one quick question. The list that you went over with on the presentation, of course, encompasses like 25 more items. I didn't count them, be above and beyond what we have on here. Is there any advantage to the district in what the district is doing? This was designed as, it's a living document. We can change it any way the committee wants. But are there any advantages for the district in trying to load this thing up with 4 more pages of items for all those items that you talked about, or you never had us do that before, and those things have been ongoing for years. So I need to know so then the group needs to know where the district is on that. Do we need to add every one of those things into here, or just stay with our core 6 items that the governing board liked from us, and then let the district do their thing with the rest of it? What would be your opinion on that?
Again, I really think that's up to the committee. We understand, in general over the past several years where this committee's interests lie. But we always love to hear, if you want to make changes or additions, if there's a new priority, it's really up to you. The list can be as exhaustive or as brief as you desire. The more information we have, the better. But
Okay.
Again, it's completely up to you.
So I would that answers my question, and so I'm going to throw this to the group on that. It looks to me like fairly we can do whatever helps the district procure funds. That's what we want to do. But I will remind everybody, of course, that no matter what we recommend and even vote on here or in the next meeting, ultimately the final document is still up to the district what they want to put in there, because we're an advisory group. We don't say what's what, but they've been very good over the years at putting down what we've asked, and they've never pushed anything out. I'm going to open this up with the first hand that went up. Nyman, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Well, can you clarify which document you were referring to when you said that the school buses was missing the number?
So this is the Environmental Justice Advisory Group Grants Committee recommendation for the use of district funds. And it was originally the 2021 document that we approved at the meeting last year. And that's the item, that's the one, you should have gotten that in your packet. I printed it up and I have it. It's got the red letters there on the top.
Mhm.
The one that I have doesn't have any red letters, and it has
Yeah,
school
me
buses
neither.
as number
And it
1.
has the number. That's why I'm confused.
Hi, just to clarify, so as part of the agenda packet last week, I sent out the red line document, and then today I sent out a clean copy we fixed the number issue. And I just sent that about an hour ago.
Mhm.
In advance. So, okay.
Well, thank you for clarifying, because I was confused. I might say the number 1 here, but anyhow, thank you. That's minor. Now, my question, and excuse me, I'm new to this committee, so like the presentation that you gave, Todd, includes all kinds of incentive programs that the Air District has, including AB 617, but not limited to that. But our recommendations here, like, for example, we like the allocation of the funds for the communities in AB 617 that with approved SERPs, that those are already there. So it's we're just reaffirming that, or what are we doing in terms of including that into our recommendation for incentives?
Sure. So it's sort of a new concept because the AB 617 process is real sort of fairly new still. It's only been around a couple of years. And so you're correct that process it's wholly separate from this. The communities are choosing the programs and the areas of focus for their communities. So that's a whole separate process. I just kind of wanted to in the update, I just kind of wanted to give you the breadth of everything that we are doing. So this is, the recommendations from this committee would really sort of fall outside of the AB 617 process. So where do you want us to spend, the district-wide dollars, the rest that are not AB 617 related, where do you want to see those dollars going? So yeah, I included it in the presentation just to sort of capture everything that we're doing, but you're absolutely right. The 617 process is separate, and you should focus on just kind of the district-wide programs.
So I have a question for the group then, based on that last part. If the group would like everything that Todd went through on the list, added to this document, we can't do it in the meeting right now when there's no reason to. We have the list of items, the little bit of verbiage that we use for each item. I mean, I have no problem. I typed up the original on this, and it's kind of lasted throughout all the years. I have no problem getting on the computer and taking every one of those items and using the same verbiage and just making it a 5-page document. And in the next meeting, if that's what you all wanted to do, we would just vote to go to the committee and recommend that we'll expand the document by adding all those items to it. Or if you feel like we want to add any of them, or we don't have to worry about any of them, whatever the group wants to do, let's discuss it, make a decision, vote on it, and we'll be good to go. Do we have any thoughts from anybody? Esperanza, Tom, Nyman, Laura?
So just really quickly, I think, where in the presentation where I identified, this was an EJAG recommendation, I think all of those areas in my presentation are captured in your document as it stands now. If there's something that is maybe not worded quite right, or it's slightly different than what the committee would like to see, we can certainly do that. But my understanding is that in my presentation, all of those areas where I highlighted, this is an EJAG recommendation, this is an EJAG recommendation.
Oh yeah, under heavy duty engine, it kind of picks up all of those different ag things.
Right.
So I would submit we're probably okay to stay with the document we've got unless somebody sees something that they want to give special attention to. And I'm open to that, or I'm open to a motion to move the recommendation that covers everything and move it forward for approval to the main committee at 5:30. Do I have any discussion on that? I'm wide open. This is your chance. Okay, could I have a motion from somebody then to make the recommendation, to take this recommendation on through and continue it then for another year?
So moved.
Do I have a second, please?
Second.
Okay, thank you, Thomas. Can we go ahead and have a roll call on that, please?
Sure. Ms. Vielma,
Yes.
Mr. Williams,
Yes.
Ms. Martinez,
Yes.
Ms. Gatil,
Yes.
Mr. Helm.
Yes.
So
Motion
that-
passes.
Motion passes. Thank you very, very much. Let's refer back to our agenda here. We've taken care of our business. Let's go ahead and go to item number 7, public comments. Michelle, do we have any public comments in any of your districts?
Through the chair, we do have a member of the public present, so I'll wait just a minute to see if there's a public comment. And I do not see an indication of public comment
Thank you very
on
much.
this item.
Item number 8 then, do we have any suggested items for the next grants committee meeting a year from now? Or would we maybe like to have a little conversation shortly before that meeting a year from now to see what happens over the next year? Does that make a little more sense? Okay. Do we have any, item number 9, any EJAG member comments for this committee? Closing comments?
I do have just a comment. I think that, in the specific, the program that is now providing funding for individuals that want to replace their cars, there was a big change there. I was happy to see that we were finally heard and that we went from 1999 to 2006. So kudos on that. I was a little bit concerned though, because now the requirement, and correct me if I'm wrong, Todd, because I reviewed the application, but I believe that now you cannot, get a conventional car. You need to get either a hybrid or an electric. It could be a used one, but there are some criteria. So I would be very interested in knowing if that change or those two main changes have an impact in, the applications that you receive, if it goes up or down, or does it change it in any way, the way that the program has been operating in the past?
So I think just in general, we are experiencing more applications than we've ever seen. We are breaking weekly and monthly records in terms of participation. So I think it's only going up. And so I think the change, yeah, and you're right. It was years in the making. It's something we were finally able to accomplish and work with ARB to get done. So, and yeah, at your urging and a lot of people, we heard you. And so we were able to finally make that happen. So, but the program is experiencing tremendous growth since we made that change.
Thank you.
One quick question for the group. Do we think that we need Todd because we've got a very full agenda for the next meeting. Do we need Todd to do that whole presentation, or basically, since we did not change the recommendation from last year, most everybody should know what it is because it hasn't changed. So should we maybe just hit the highlights off of the paperwork and just roll it on through so we can get, because we got a lot on the next meeting to take care of.
Yeah, I'd be happy to, but generally I don't during the normal meeting. It's usually the committee that just sort of takes the recommendations and goes.
Okay.
But I'd be happy to. It's at the committee's discretion.
Okay, so since I chaired this tonight, then if it's okay with the group, in the next meeting, regardless of who's chairing the next meeting, when we get to this item, if it's acceptable to the group, I'll pick up this item and take it through for the vote, and then we'll be done with it for another year. And then, of course, the important thing was we needed to get it done now because of the timing for all the district budget, the budget rules, their budget, and then getting everything to the governing board in a timely manner. So that's kind of why we try to get it done when we do. Then since we have no further business and we've already finished all the items on the list, I want to thank everyone for being here, and I'll see you all in about 17 minutes at the next meeting. Thank you now. Go grab some coffee.
Thank you all.
Great. Bye-bye now.
Thanks, everybody.
Michelle, should we log off or stay logged in?
You can stay logged in, just turn off your cameras and your microphones. It's the same link for 5:30. It's completely your call.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.